He want to play crazy. He wasn't crazy when he murdered my son, man. He wasn't crazy then, but he crazy now. All of a sudden, he crazy now.
In Tampa, Florida, a vicious man named Scott Schweikert committed crimes that were not just heinous, but also the epitome of pure evil. With a sinister plot with nothing but sadistic intentions, Schweikert and his partner in crime, Steven Lorenzo, committed unspeakable horrors. When they crossed paths with two unsuspecting men, Jason Galehouse and Michael Wachholtz, in a gay nightclub, little did these two young men know that their encounters would lead them down a path of unimaginable suffering. They allured Galehouse and Wachholtz back to Lorenzo's house, where their nightmare began. They were tortured without any shred of humanity. Jason Galehouse, once vibrant and full of life, met a gruesome demise at their hands. His body was cruelly dismembered before being heartlessly discarded. Meanwhile, Michael Wachholtz met a similar fate, abandoned in a Jeep. The authorities alerted to the sinister crimes and eventually uncovered the chilling truth. Scott Schweikert, already confined behind prison walls serving a 40-year sentence, faced justice once more as he stood before the court. The weight of his acts bore down upon him as he pleaded guilty to the murders of Galehouse and Wachholtz. Schweikert struck a deal with the prosecutors in a desperate bid for leniency. He agreed to bear witness against his partner, Steven Lorenzo, who was also in federal prison locked away for 200 years. The courtroom was filled with agony when the mother took the stand. She claimed how she was disgusted to even be in the same room as them. Her hatred echoed through the walls.
He be laying no mental hospital. He need to go to prison, man.
Come on, sir.
He want to play crazy. All of a sudden, he crazy now. You want to lay in a mental hospital? You done murdered my son, man, for nothing.
Luke Case Kendall. On June 1st, 2012, a shooting occurred outside Club Lex, where Luke Case Kendall worked as a security guard. Despite his criminal history and questionable mental state, he was hired. Kendall fired multiple shots at Michael Smathers and Keywan Bird, who had just arrived at the club. He claimed to have seen them rolling a joint. Bird tragically lost his life and Smathers was paralyzed from the waist down. Kendall was arrested for second-degree murder and attempted murder, but was deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial twice. Eventually, when declared mentally competent, he represented himself in court. In 2015, when Kendall's case was about to go on trial, he decided to decline the judge's offer to provide him with a trained lawyer for his defense. When asked if he would accept guidance from attorney Abe Bailey, Kendall boldly responded to the judge, stating, "Not if he was the last man on earth." Instead, Kendall navigated through a 5-day trial, stumbling along the way. He attempted to argue that his arrest was part of a conspiracy targeting white individuals. Kendall addressed the jurors, emphasizing that the individuals he shot were African American and asserting his ability to prove that. He also claimed that his arrest was related to the George Zimmerman shooting, but he felt restricted in sharing this information with the jury. Outraged at the mentally incompetent comment, his father shouted at him at the court, saying he deserved to be in jail.
To, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
I have
Would
a
you
feeling.
do that?
That is not how
Yes or
our.
no?
No, sir, I can't.
Would you
do
give me
that.
1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal system.
Well, I'm going to have to get something.
Larry Nassar. Larry is a former American sports medicine physician convicted as a serial child molester. Shockingly, Nassar served as the team doctor for the United States women's national gymnastics team for 18 years. However, instead of providing proper medical care, he used his position of trust to exploit, deceive, and sexually assault countless children and young women. During a sentencing hearing, the father of 3 girls molested by gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar reached a breaking point. Filled with rage and frustration, the father, Randall Margraves, lost control of his emotions and charged at Nassar, prompting sheriff's deputies to intervene and restrain him. In his outburst, Margrave shouted, "Let me have that son of a bee. Give me 1 minute with that bastard." His anguished plea reflected the depth of his pain and desire for justice. Nasser, a figure of authority within the gymnastics community, projected an image of normality, causing his victims to question whether what they experienced was truly abuse. He manipulated them into believing that speaking out would make them appear in the wrong. This added layer of deception and psychological manipulation compounded the trauma inflicted upon the victims. The impact of Nasser's actions on the women who suffered his abuse was devastating. They expressed that their trust in various individuals, including male relatives, partners, doctors, strangers, friends, and even teachers, was completely shattered due to the trauma they endured at his hands.